for creative projects, the research really, I mean, it might be very similar to the type of research that's done for argumentative writing or rhetorical writing, because I think, creative writing, visual arts, dance, music, whatever creative project is being worked on, I mean, they also are dealing with difficult ideas and human issues and, have something to say about those things.
So I would define creative research as traditional research, which would include things like reading books about a subject, reading peer-reviewed articles, visiting archives, both in person and online, but also work that includes more experiential research, so going to visit a location, observation, interviewing people, so things that are more firsthand experience or primary research.
The research component is going to be, kind of introduced as a familiarity with what has come before in the discipline, or kind of what already exists out there in terms of, a creative project. So if someone is doing a sculpture, I've had students turn in sculptures for assignments before, they will need to also include the component of, what are they basing this on, like a Rodin type sculpture? Is it, hearkening back to sculptures in antiquity? Is it more in line with found art or found objects? So that kind of thing.
For a creative project, your references may differ or vary. So we always recommend that, creative students, artists, look for projects that are exploring things in a similar way to them. So not just, looking at papers and journals, but also looking at, films and installations and experiences that are also kind of talking about or referencing those topics. And even if there isn't like a conceptual connection, we recommend that our students are looking for different processes that they have interest in that maybe has some kind of correlation, or there could be some kind of like a metaphorical connection between a certain creative process and a certain topic for that project.
So I think that the creative project not only encourages, but kind of requires that the student bring in their interdisciplinary knowledge beforehand and then apply it in this kind of transdisciplinary setting.
I do think that, sometimes maybe students are worried that they don't have the knowledge, just the base knowledge to be able to write about something or make an art project about something, because you gotta, I don't know, I mean, in a part it's like writing or making art about the thing is also the way to learn about it. You know what I mean? So it's not always like you have to be a master in the subject to be able to make art about it. Making art is helping you become the master. But yeah, I guess in that way, the making of the thing and the researching about the thing are kind of done in tandem.
So when I talk to students about creative research, I'm gonna sit down with each student. I haven't found another way to do it other than to ask them to tell me about their vision. What do they want to research? What is their creative project? And then I sort of ask them a series of questions to get them to think more deeply about both the research project itself and issues they might run into with that project. Usually what it is students are trying to do too much, and you have to ask them to narrow it down. Sometimes they're not challenging themselves enough, but I find that's really rare. Usually students have a very articulate vision and they're being very ambitious. And so sometimes you have to ask them to narrow things down. We create a research plan, and I let them know that each individual research creative project is going to be different, and you need a new research plan for each one. So even if you decide to change directions, you may have to change your research plan. And so we come up with a step-by-step process. What do you need to do to get this to completion? And sometimes that's, I need to go visit this place, and I need to read these books, and I need to interview so-and-so. And all of those things are part of the research process. And also the student should be writing that whole time as well, or whatever the creative project is, they should be creating at the same time that they're researching so that they can get feedback from the work that they're actually creating, and that might change the direction of the project.
So research really happens through seeking references and inspiration and a lot of experimentation. It's really about experimentation and failure in a lot of ways. A creative project isn't about, making something and getting it right the first time. It's about a whole process of iteration and of investigation through making. And oftentimes that failure or that repetitive kind of iterative process is part of the research and part of the investigation. So the work really for a creative project is less about the end result or the appearance of the end result, and more about the process that the artist or the creator went through to investigate whatever it is that they're investigating.
What I find is that the strength of the process reflects itself in the strength of the product. So those two things do tend to correlate, although I think it's really important for students to focus on process. It helps them with their mental health through the process of creativity, which can be very, you can feel a sense of failure, you can feel a sense of despair if things don't turn out according to your vision, and focusing on process teaches them that it is a process and that you can change directions. You're never gonna fail. You're just gonna change directions. And so it just frees students up to really put in the time, put in the connection that they need with a project so that they can actually get something that has all these layers and richness and complexity.